Reach beyond boundaries with Edlocate. Explore education across 6 destinations under one roof.
A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Primetime News coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Sanath Nishantha laid to rest in Arachikattua. Operation Yuktiya will not be suspended as long as he remains the minister, despite pressure from the international community. Minister Tiran reiterates.
මේ කුහකයොත් නැති කරන්න ඕනේ මේ පාතාලෙත් නැති කරන්න ඕනේ මේ කුඩුකාරයොත් නැති කරන්න ඕනේ.
Online safety bill has brought disrepute to Sri Lanka, says leader of the opposition. Sri Lanka will have to meet 110 commitments by second IMF review. Verite Research's IMF tracker reveals. Sri Lankan ambassadors to the African Union requests the assistance of the Somali government to facilitate the release of Sri Lankan fishermen kidnapped by Somali pirates. West Indies record historic test victory against Australia in 27 years.
And now the stories in detail. Sports Minister Harin Fernando says the ban imposed by the International Cricket Council on Sri Lanka cricket has been lifted. The minister revealed these details issuing a message on X, formerly known as Twitter. His message further notes that the official statement on the matter will be published soon. The ICC suspended Sri Lanka cricket on the 11th of November last year for being in serious breach of its obligations as an ICC member, in particular the requirement to manage its affairs autonomously and ensure that there is no government interference in the governance, regulation or administration of cricket in Sri Lanka. In headline news this evening, the final rites of late State Minister Sanath Nishantha were conducted earlier today in the midst of his relatives, close associates and many political figures. A large crowd gathered at the residence of Sanath Nishantha even today to pay their last respects. The funeral service commenced around 1 this afternoon with many political representatives in attendance, including former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abewardena. Multi-religious observances were held thereafter. Chairman of the United National Party, Wajira Abewardena, delivered the President's condolence message to the gathering.
There are a few things that need to be understood by those engaged in politics. Members of all political parties have to shun anger, hatred, jealousy and hypocrisy when engaging in politics. Nowadays, many of them are willing to point fingers at others to protect their positions. Today, with Sanath Nishantha's body before us, everyone must affirm to never engage in such vile acts.
State Minister Ashoka Priyantha delivered Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena's message of condolence.
He stood by his camp through victories and defeats. He won many things for his camp, even at the expense of personal matters. We wish to remember how he worked tirelessly in the face of heavy criticism.
Member of Parliament Namal Rajapaksa delivered a message of condolence on behalf of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and family.
Politicians who stand by you when you are powerless are rare compared to those who are with you when you are in power. Anyone who associated him closely would see the humane qualities he possessed going beyond his outer appearance as a politician. Neither the party nor our country can fill the vacuum genuine politicians like him create.
State Minister Fernando addressed the gathering on behalf of all politicians from the Puttlam district.
People who do not know him and are not from this district, people who are unaware of the service he rendered, are speaking about him on social media in a demeaning way. I cannot even speak about it, Honourable President. These matters must be discussed and stopped. Those who are unable to defeat you when you were alive are now attempting to defeat you on social media when you are gone. One thing is clear to all of us. That is, even if they defeat you on social media, you will remain in the people's hearts eternally.
I wish to convey my heartfelt gratitude to the people of the Puttlam district who elevated Sanath Nishantha from regional to national level politics, as well as those who supported us in his demise, our relatives, neighbours, locals, his staff and all Sri Lankans.
The funeral procession then travelled from his residence to the Rajagadalu church in Narachi Katwa. Final religious observances were held at the church. Sanath Nishantha was laid to rest at the Rajagadalu public cemetery. 803 suspects have been arrested through Operation Yuktiya over a 24-hour window, of which 562 arrests relating to narcotics offences have been made. 241 suspects included in the list of names directed to the crimes unit have also been apprehended. The Ministry of Public Security said among the arrested were 225 people who had warrants against them. 212 grams of heroin and 101 grams of ice along with other narcotics have also been seized during this period.
Views were expressed by the chairman of the Asian Human Rights Commission, Dr. Dimuthu Balasuriya, during a program held today in connection with the nationwide Operation Yuktiya to combat drugs and the underworld.
We respect Operation Yuktiya. It is something that should definitely happen in the country. Not only those using drugs but also drug lords who smuggle drugs into the country should be arrested. This means that the police arrest the man that steals the neighbor's container to get 1,000 rupees to be exchanged for drugs, but the police doesn't even stir for the minister or the elite. Even if 119 calls are given, we clearly say this to those in charge of security. If you don't find out how the small man gets them, you will always be playing childish games by arresting the small man. We won't be able to stop drugs in the country. We don't know if tomorrow some of the elite will give voice cuts saying they are not afraid of the man who supports the drug lords. I don't know if they will send the CID to my doorstep tomorrow, but I say this fearlessly. The law of the country must be enforced.
The Minister of Public Security met the members of the Community Police Committee of the Gampaha Police Division last evening. Acting IGP Deshbandhu Tennakon was also present.
පොලිසිය පහුගිය කාලාන්තරය පුරාම මේ මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය නැති කරන්න ලොකු පරිශ්‍රමයක් දරලා තියෙනවා.
The police engaged in a tireless effort in the recent past to eradicate drugs. Hundreds of thousands have been arrested. Thousands of kilos of drugs have been seized. But they still have not been able to end this menace. That is why new process to combat drugs was implemented since the 17th of December. We have compiled a list of those who supply drugs based on the data provided by intelligence units and Narcotics Bureau. 70% of those names in that list have been arrested by now, the end of January. We will not stop at 70% by February, it will be 100%. We will not stop there either. Intelligence units have been assigned to monitor who enters the trade newly. When the old faces are incarcerated, Operation Yuktiya will not end till they are stopped. Neither will we stop these arrests.
මේ බිස්නස් එක කරන තාක් කල්ම මේ අය දිගින් දිගටම අවසානයක් වෙනකම් අතරමට ගන්නවා.
තිබුණේ මද්ද්‍රව්‍ය උවදුරයි පාතාලයයි තමයි පළවෙනි තැනට ආපු ප්‍රශ්නය.
The burning issue was the drug menace and that the underworld. I decided long ago that measures must be taken to combat the underworld and drugs. It is because I had this plan in mind that I lobbied for Deshabandhu Tennakon to be made the IGP. It has been nearly 1.5 months since Operation Yuktiya commenced. Many people have expressed their concern over what would have happened to this country had we allowed the underworld to run riot and narcotics to spread further. I have called for a significant change by the 30th of June. The international community is throwing obstacles at us. A certain branch of the United Nations has issued a notice calling for Operation Yuktiya to be suspended. They should realize this is our country. We do what we want in our country. As long as I am in this ministry, this will not stop. Despite what the UN or any other international agency says, we need to stop the underworld and drug racketeers. I am ready to take any stern decision to make that a reality. We need to get rid of those who are weighing us down. Another thing I noticed was the amount of women and children being abused. It happens through social media. We brought a law recently taking all those into consideration. Many have criticized it. We are being attacked. There are a set of lawyers. I continuously said that they depend on drug dealers. They earn money through drug dealers. There are YouTubers as well. They too are dependent on drug dealers. They are under the impression that we will back down if they intimidate us. I will take every decision possible to end this. The underworld and drug dealers must be eradicated.
නැති කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ පාතාලෙත් නැති කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ කුඩුකාරයොත් නැති කරන්න ඕනේ.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa stated that Sri Lanka has been disgraced internationally due to the online safety bill that stifles the dissemination of information among the people. He expressed this opinion while addressing the Kegol War Heroes Summit.
ජාත්‍යන්තර විරෝධය නොතකා Asian Internet Coalition එකේ යෝජනා ඔක්කොම පැත්තකට වීසි කරලා
Disregarding the international opposition and all other proposals made by the Asia Internet Coalition, this government has stifled any means of information acquisition by people as online safety and is carrying out a major operation to disrupt local social media. Because of this, the country has been disgraced internationally. I fearlessly say that these foreign investments that should come directly to our country have been negatively affected due to the foolish Hitler-like dictatorship prevailing in our country now.
රට පාලනය කරන ඒකාධිපති ආඥාදායක හිට්ලර් පාලනයයි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ නොබියවම ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
The following views on the online safety bill were expressed by Member of Parliament S.M. Marikar at a press conference convened by the Samagi Janabalawegaya.
ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ දුන්නු සංශෝධනවලට අමතරව
In addition to the amendments provided by the Supreme Court, the government has forcibly introduced amendments that they want in a repressive manner. I don't know if something like this has ever happened in the history of the parliament. When the person who says democracy should be safeguarded becomes president, he becomes a dictator. The person who says Facebook needs to be protected is introducing laws to repress it. If it was Mahinda Rajapaksa, Gotabaya Rajapaksa or any other Rajapaksas, we could have understood their mentality based on how they act. The ones who preach about democracy is the one saying this now. This is not constitutional, which is why the Speaker, due to the strong objection of the party leaders and the opposition, has been forced to inquire from the Attorney General whether this pertains to the Constitution.
නීතිපතිවරයාගෙන් විමසන්න මේක ව්‍යවස්ථාවට අදාළද කියලා ඉවරලා.
Supreme Court Judge Jasantha Kodagoda expressed the following views regarding the independence of the judiciary during an event held in Jaffna today.
Let us as students and disciples of the law encourage our leaders to infuse ethics and values into governance, ensure equality, strengthen the rule of the law, protect the independence of the judiciary, combat corruption, and enact and enforce the law in a manner that would truly be in public and national interest. It is indeed sad that we don't have many examples to cite, ladies and gentlemen, of how new legislation has been enacted and existing legislation has been revised, founded upon expert knowledge and research findings of legal academics. It is common knowledge that statutory lawmaking is necessarily founded upon party politics and majoritarian political interests and exigencies which are necessarily political in nature, which at times can generate, ladies and gentlemen, effects which may not necessarily be in the interest of the public. If legislation is not evidence-based, it is not developed through sound reasoning, and is not the result of inclusive and detailed consultations, legislation is likely to fall short of expected standards.
President's Counsel Dr. Jayampati Vikramaratne also spoke during the same event.
Politicians must be asked, political parties must be asked, before they ask us to vote for them, tell us what your proposals for constitutional reform are. They especially when elections are near, there is no talk, they don't want to give promises. People who have been talking about the abolition of the executive presidency for years are now not talking about abolition. Devolution is not being talked about. Strengthening devolution, strengthening the fundamental rights chapter is not being talked about. So we need to talk to them. Because they are not talking to us, we need to talk to them and ask them, what are your proposals? Tell us before we decide to vote.
Leader of the Jatika Janabalawegi Andrakumar Dissanayake says that in the near future, opposing groups will also unite on political platforms.
The Galle District Conference of the Women Empowerment Initiative of the JJB Gahanu Api Ekamitata was held today, led by party leader Andrakumar Dissanayake.
එකතු වෙන්න පුළුවන් වර්ගයේ ඕනෑම කණ්ඩායමක් එකට වේදිකාවට නගිනවා. ඔබ මේ රටේ හිතුවද රනිල්
Any group that is capable of coming together will unite. Did you see a collaboration of Ranil, Maitri and Chandrika? That also will happen very soon. The groups that genuinely criticized Ranil Wickremesinghe will also come together. That is to defeat this rising progressive program by the people. Some, even if they don't stand on stages together, will stand separately and act towards that one cause. What has happened now? Traitors of our motherland have recognized the JJB as their sole opponent. This year will definitely see a regime change through an election. According to the political map, there will be a presidential election after the 17th of September and before the 17th of October. We only have approximately 7 to 8 months left. This will be the most crucial few months of my life. We should rise up together now more than ever. We can certainly end this on a victorious note.
අපි හැම කෙනාමන් කවරදාටත් වඩා වැඩියෙන් අවදි වෙමු. අපිට සාහතික වශයෙන් ජයග්‍රහය ලෙස මේ වැඩේ නිමා කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Newsfirst with the people.
According to independent analysis from Verite Research, Sri Lanka has met most of its initial commitments under its International Monetary Fund bailout program, but concerns remain over delays in the governance and transparency reforms.
Grappling with its worst economic crisis in decades, secured a crucial $2.9 billion loan from the IMF in March 2023. Verite Research, which tracks Sri Lanka's progress under the Extended Fund Facility Program via its online platform IMF Tracker, reports that of the 73 commitments due by end November 2023, 60 have been met, albeit with some delays. However, 13 commitments remain unfulfilled, raising concerns about Sri Lanka's commitment to crucial reforms. 5 of these were irreversibly missed and cannot be carried forward, while 8 have been deferred to the second phase of the program leading up to the next IMF review. Adding to the complexity, the IMF has modified due dates for an additional 27 commitments initially set for after November, categorizing them as pending alongside the 8 carried forward obligations. Moreover, Sri Lanka and the IMF have added 75 new commitments to the program. Consequently, the second phase of the EFF kicks off with a staggering 110 commitments hanging in the balance. Notably, 4 specific governance and transparency-related commitments remain unfulfilled, including the launch of an online transparency platform for public procurement and tax exemptions and the establishment of a merit-based selection process for directors and the Anti-Corruption Commission.
The campaign to safeguard national resources convened a press conference in Colombo today. While addressing the media, they said that they will not allow the sale of profitable state-owned institutions under the guise of fulfilling IMF commitments.
There's a debate in India about the sale of telecom. This is also evolving in geopolitical conflict between India and China. That is why we continuously said such actions would put sovereignty and supremacy of our country under significant threat. We will not let the government go through with the telecom sale. This government without the people's mandate is trying to cunningly sell off profitable institutions such as SLT, Sri Lanka Insurance, Postal Department and various other attractive fields. They themselves are saying that the future will be a digital-oriented world. After saying that, they are now trying to sell off our state-owned telecom company which contains confidential client information and all sensitive material related to our citizens. Can you make a digital world through our sovereignty? According to the power and energy sector, power influences everything from education, health, transportation and telecom. Can we see a development by selling this? Can we believe such statements? That is why we clearly oppose this. Aliraja Subhashkaran and Mukesh Ambani are in a tug of war to purchase telecom. In 2016, Ambani began Jio in line with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government plan. Jio Platforms is the company that is likely to come to Sri Lanka with the aim of buying SLT. In addition to that, Petco International Group will come forward on behalf of Subhashkaran's Laika Group.
Laika Group Petigo International Samagam.
Their aim is to show that there is no consistent plan in this unstable political landscape to service the current debt. Because of such incompetency, we have come to a place where the only variable option has become sale of institution.
මේ කරන කටයුතු වල අවසාන ප්‍රතිඵලයේ විකිණීම හැර වෙනත් විකල්පයක් නැති තැනට අදපත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
People took to the streets of Timrigasaya once again today, demanding for justice, good governance and an end to corruption in Sri Lanka.
These people have gathered here once again on a Sunday evening to the streets of Timrigasaya, demanding for a country free of corruption, good governance, and also asking for justice for the problems happening around the country. And as you can see right now, these people are holding placards, silently protesting for the issues of the people in the country.
Also, I think I'd like to speak about the attack that happened at Liberty Circle. Our friends who protest there were attacked in the presence of police. In fact, police who are there every Thursday for the entire time that the protesters are there from 5 to 6. They are always present. That day, the moment they were there and the moment the attackers came, they suddenly vanished. And after the attackers left, they suddenly appeared again.
Thursday, we had a similar incident where the Liberty Circle was attacked. The police, there were 6 to 8 police who walked away as soon as the thugs arrived. So I'm wondering, what are my taxes paying for? Who are the police protecting? And we are not going to back down. We will stand for good governance and justice, whoever is in power. So that's what I say, GGY, will not back down. We will be here.
Well, time for a short commercial break. Stay with Newsfirst. We will be right back.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
Reach beyond boundaries with Edlocate. Explore education across 6 destinations under one roof.
Red Sea Crisis.
The Red Sea crisis, ongoing since October 2023, is a complex web of intertwined factors with regional and geopolitical dimensions. In the latest development, Lebanese media reported that Hezbollah has reportedly received intelligence that the Israeli Defense Force is ready for a war on 2 fronts.
Lebanese broadcaster LBCI reported that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is prepared to start a full-blown war against the pro-Palestinian armed group Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah has been firing rockets and mortar shells at Israeli positions since the start of the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. The barrages have prompted retaliatory strikes from the Israeli army. According to LBCI, an intelligence report on Israel's plans has been provided to Hezbollah by an unnamed Arab country. Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdel Abu Habib, meanwhile, said that a war with Lebanon would not be a quote-unquote picnic for Israel. Hezbollah MP Hassan Ezzedine similarly said that the militants would quote-unquote fight back twice as hard and deal a blow to the enemy. The United States military says it destroyed a Houthi anti-ship missile in Yemen that was aimed into the Red Sea and ready to launch after the Iran-aligned group attacked a British oil tanker in the Gulf of Aden. The US attack followed a strike by the Houthi rebels on a British fuel tanker on Friday evening. A firefighting team from an Indian Navy warship extinguished a massive blaze on board a merchant vessel on Saturday night after it was struck by a missile in the Gulf of Aden. INS Visakhapatnam responded to an SOS call from merchant vessel Marlin Launda after it was targeted by a missile on Saturday. The oil tanker had 22 Indians and 1 Bangladeshi national on board. In a statement, the Indian Navy said that a team of 10 firefighters brought the fire under control after 6 hours. Multiple Western countries have suspended the funding to the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency in response to Israeli allegations that a number of its employees participated in the deadly October 7th Hamas attack. The US, UK, Canada, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Finland and Australia have stopped sending money to UNRWA as of Saturday, according to Reuters. The decisions came after the agency fired an unspecified number of its staffers and launched an investigation into their alleged ties to Palestinian militants. The simmering conflict in the Middle East has escalated dramatically, spilling over from Israel and Palestine into Lebanon, Yemen, Iran and now Pakistan, with the volatile Red Sea at its epicenter. This international crisis directly impacts global shipping, jeopardizing the crucial trade route connecting the Mediterranean with Asia through the Suez Canal. Leading shipping companies have already begun rerouting around South Africa, adding over 40% to shipping costs. Newsfirst issued a timely warning weeks ago about the potential risks of Sri Lanka getting embroiled in this conflict. And now, Sri Lanka finds itself taking a potentially perilous step as the president announced the deployment of a navy ship to the Red Sea. While the exact date remains unknown, there has been no indication of a change in the president's decision.
Sri Lankan ambassadors to the African Union have requested Somali authorities to assist in the release of a group of Sri Lankan fishermen who have been kidnapped by Somali pirates. They have requested for them to intervene in the rescue of the Sri Lankan fishermen and the multi-day fishing trawler.
The multi-day fishing vessel Lorenzo 4 embarked on its maiden voyage on the 12th of January. It had 6 fishermen, all residents of Chilau, on board. 3 out of these 6 are from the same family. However, the Lorenzo 4 vessel was captured by a group of Somali pirates in the Arabian Sea, about 1,160 nautical miles from land in the international waters near Seychelles. A vessel that had sailed to the area of the Arabian Sea where the Sri Lankan fishermen were engaging in their activities had pursued the Lorenzo 4 vessel, entered it forcibly and fired shots into the air.
These are things that we have gained amidst many hardships. It is okay even if we are to lose them if the fishermen are safe. From the message that we received, we were told that it was an Iranian vessel that came near. 3 men with weapons had boarded the vessel and so they had been unable to do anything.
The Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources states that all communication with the Lorenzo 4 vessel has been disrupted and that any information they have gathered is through nearby vessels. The department also points out that there had been around 30 vessels in close proximity to Lorenzo 4 when this incident occurred.
My son is there. He is the skipper. My son-in-law is the other. A relative of my son-in-law is also there. There are 2 more boys from Kalpitia and Tudava.
Meanwhile, notice has been given to the Combined Maritime Forces in Bahrain by the Sri Lankan Navy to investigate the multi-day fishing vessel captured by the Somali pirates. The Combined Maritime Forces in Bahrain is an organization of 39 countries that deals with the security of naval vessels. Navy spokesperson Captain Gayan Vikramasuriya said that countries with powerful naval technology have also been informed about this matter.
2 Sri Lankan fishing boats were detained by Maldives over alleged illegal fishing.
2 Sri Lankan fishing boats were apprehended by the Maldives National Defence Force Coast Guard on January 25th for allegedly fishing illegally within the Maldives Exclusive Economic Zone. The MNDF's Northern Area Command Coast Guard First Squadron intercepted the vessel following a tip-off received earlier that day. 1 boat held 7 crew members and the other 6. Both vessels are currently under the custody of the Coast Guard ship Nuruddin and docked at the Harin Filadu harbour. The specific charges against the detained Sri Lankan fishermen and the potential penalties they face are yet to be disclosed.
The annual Galle Literary Festival 2024 drew to a close today after drawing massive crowds from around the world throughout 4 days to celebrate literature. Newsfirst, TV1 and Yes FM were official broadcasting partners of the event.
The Galle Literary Festival is an annual event which rallies world-renowned authors and artists and literature enthusiasts of all ages. Throughout 4 days, the Galle Literary Festival was held at the historic Galle Fort, and the event saw massive crowds attending various programs, workshops, panel discussions and signing events. The Galle Literary Festival drew to a close with a friendly cricket match between the authors and organisers of the Galle Literary Festival. The cricket encounter was played at the iconic Galle International Cricket Stadium.
And in sports news, it's cricket. Shamar Joseph produced one of the greatest bowling spells by a touring bowler on Australian soil in a generation, steering the West Indies towards a thrilling 8-run victory at the Gabba. The 24-year-old, playing just his second test match, claimed 7 wickets for 68 runs in a career-defining performance to rip through Australia's top order, helping the West Indies secure its first victory on Australian soil since 1997.
Who couldn't walk the previous evening after copping a toe-brushing Yorker from Mitchell Starc, bowled 12 consecutive overs from the Vulture Street end during an awe-inspiring spell that was witnessed by 3,162 Brisbane spectators. The Guyanese product had been taken for scans on Saturday evening after retiring hurt during the West Indies' second innings, but thankfully he was cleared to join his teammates the following afternoon. Australia needed 156 runs and the West Indies required 8 wickets when play resumed on Sunday. Despite a scratchy start, Smith and all-rounder Cameron Green survived the first 45 minutes, combining for a 71-run partnership. Cameron Green became Joseph's first victim of the afternoon after chopping back onto his stumps for 42. Joseph found himself on a hat-trick after knocking over Travis Head the following delivery for a golden duck. 15 minutes later, Joseph found the outside edge of Mitchell Marsh's bat. In his following over, Joseph exposed Australia's tail by toppling wicketkeeper Alex Carey, leaving Australia in dire straits at 6 for 136. Mitchell Starc launched in an entertaining counter-attack before Joseph secured his 5-wicket haul in the 41st over. The decisive moment came in the 51st over, with Joseph beating Hazelwood's defences and toppling the stumps, sending his West Indies teammates into hysterics. The two-match series ended as a 1-all draw, with Australia retaining the Frank Worrell Trophy.
The Richie Benaud medal as well.
I must say, we had 2 words.
Moving on to tennis news, Jannik Sinner landed the Grand Slam title he has long promised with an extraordinary fight back to beat Daniil Medvedev in the Australian Open final. Italy's Sinner 22 trailed by 2 sets before recovering to win 3-6, 3-6, 6-4, 6-4, 6-3 in his first major final. Fourth seed Sinner initially could not cope with the Russians' pace but imposed himself as the contest wore on. It was another bitter experience for Medvedev, who also blew a 2-set lead against Rafael Nadal in the 2022 final. A first-time champion in Melbourne was guaranteed after Sinner moved into his first major final by knocking out 10-time champion Novak Djokovic in the semi-finals. Sinner ensured his name goes on the trophy, fulfilling the talent that many had predicted would lead to a Grand Slam triumph after an epic match lasting almost 4 hours. Third seed Medvedev has lost 5 of his 6 major finals, including back-to-back finals to Djokovic in 2021 and Nadal in 2022 at Melbourne Park. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.